Have you ever paused to wonder about the origins of man and the concept of sin? It's an intriguing question, isn't it? A question that has been contemplated and debated for centuries on end. The answers to it vary widely, depending on who you ask and what they believe in. But one of the most well-known and widely accepted accounts comes from the Bible. The biblical narrative of the creation of man and the origin of sin is a story that is known around the world, across cultures and religions. It's a tale that has been passed down through generations, interpreted and reinterpreted, analyzed and scrutinized, but it still remains as one of the most significant stories ever told. In the beginning, according to the Bible, there was nothing but God. In his infinite wisdom and power, God created the heavens and the earth, the plants and animals, and finally, man. Adam, the first man, was created in God's own image and was given dominion over all the creatures of the earth. He was placed in the Garden of Eden, a paradise where he lived in perfect harmony with his surroundings. But the harmony didn't last. The story takes a turn when Eve, the first woman, enters the scene. She was deceived by a serpent and led to eat the forbidden fruit from the tree of knowledge, an act that led to the fall of man and the introduction of sin into the world. The concept of sin, as introduced in this narrative, has been a topic of much discussion and debate. It's a concept that carries significant weight in many religious doctrines and has profound implications on our understanding of morality, responsibility, and the human condition. This story, this narrative of creation and fall, is a profound and complex one. It speaks to our deepest questions about who we are, where we come from, and why we are the way we are. It's a story that has captivated, intrigued, and challenged us for thousands of years. So, come with me, let's delve deep into the narrative of the first man and woman according to the Bible. Let's explore this enigma of existence together. In the beginning, there was nothing but God. Then came the creation of the universe. Imagine, if you will, a vast expanse of nothingness, an infinite emptiness, a void without form or substance. And in this void, there was God, an eternal, omnipotent being. From this nothingness, God began his work of creation. The first act was to create light, separating it from the darkness and naming them day and night. Following this, God fashioned the sky, the land, and the seas. He adorned the heavens with celestial bodies, the sun to govern the day, the moon to govern the night, and a myriad of stars to twinkle in the dark expanse. Then, God filled the earth with life. Plants of every kind sprouted from the ground, their leaves rustling in the gentle breeze. Birds flew across the skies, their songs echoing in the air. Fish swam in the deep seas, their scales shimmering in the sunlight. The land teemed with creatures of every shape and size, each one a testament to God's creativity and power. Yet, amidst all this splendor, God was not done. He had a special creation in mind. He took some dust from the ground and breathed life into it. And thus, man was created. This was not just an ordinary creature, this was a being made in God's own image, a reflection of his character and essence. A being with the capacity to think, to feel, to love, to create. Man was given dominion over the earth, to care for it and to cultivate it. He was to rule over the birds of the sky, the fish of the sea, and every living creature that moved on the ground. He was placed in a garden, a paradise called Eden, to live and thrive. And thus, man was brought into existence, but he was not alone. This was only the beginning of the grand narrative that would unfold, a narrative of love, betrayal, redemption, and hope. A narrative that continues to shape our understanding of our place in the cosmos, our relationship with God, and our journey towards ultimate truth. Adam, the first man, had all of creation to enjoy, but he was alone. In the midst of the Garden of Eden, filled with beauty beyond compare, Adam walked alone. The birds sang their harmonious melodies, the rivers flowed with a soothing rhythm, but none of this could fill the void of companionship that Adam felt. In his divine wisdom, God saw this loneliness and decided to make a companion for Adam, not from the dust of the ground, as he had done with Adam, but from Adam himself. God caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam and took one of his ribs, fashioning it into a woman. This woman, Eve, was not just any creation, but a part of Adam, made from his own flesh and bone. This act of creation is rich with symbolism. Eve, being created from Adam's rib, signifies that she is of him, a part of him. They are of one flesh, a profound mystery that speaks volumes about the unity and bond between a man and a woman. This is not merely a physical union, but a spiritual and emotional one as well. It is a union that mirrors the unity within the Godhead, a perfect unity of love, respect, and mutual submission. Moreover, the creation of Eve from Adam's rib, which is close to his heart, symbolizes the deep, intimate relationship they were to share. It also suggests that man and woman are equal in dignity and worth, as Eve was not taken from Adam's head to be above him, nor from his feet to be beneath him, but from his side to be equal with him. Together they formed the first human pair, the first marriage ordained by God himself. Their relationship was one of perfect love and harmony, free from the selfishness and discord that sin later introduced. Together, Adam and Eve lived in harmony, in the paradise known as the Garden of Eden. But paradise was not to last, as a cunning serpent had other plans. On this stage of creation, a new character enters the scene, a serpent, craftier than any of the wild animals. This serpent, with its silver tongue and guile, was about to change everything. It's here, beneath the lush canopy of the garden, that the serpent found Eve. He didn't waste a moment, quickly probing her knowledge about the garden's fruits. Eve was clear. They could eat from any tree in the garden, except for the tree of knowledge of good and evil. God had explicitly commanded them not to eat from it or even touch it, lest they die. But the serpent, with a smirk, dismissed God's warning. "You will not certainly die," he said, "for God knows that when you eat from it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil." Now picture this. The fruit was delightful to look at and desirable for gaining wisdom. The serpent's words were beguiling, and he had sown a seed of doubt in Eve's mind. Could they really become like God? The temptation was too strong. She took some of the fruit and ate it, and then offered it to Adam, who was with her, and he ate it too. In that moment, they disobeyed God's command. They chose their desires over their Creator's instructions. This act of rebellion, this disobedience, was the first sin. And with this sin, innocence was lost. Their eyes were opened, yes, but not to the glory they had imagined. Instead, they saw their own nakedness, their vulnerability. They felt shame and fear, emotions they had never experienced before. Thus, the first sin was committed, altering the course of mankind forever. This was the pivotal moment when paradise was lost, and the journey of mankind took a drastic turn. From that day forward, the world was no longer the same, and the echoes of this decision still reverberate through time. With one act of disobedience, sin entered the world. This single act, a mere bite of a fruit, had consequences far beyond what Adam and Eve could have ever anticipated. The moment that fruit touched their lips, they were no longer the innocent beings they once were. Knowledge they now had, but at what cost? Suddenly, they were aware of their nakedness, their vulnerability. They felt shame, a feeling they had never experienced before. They tried to hide from God, to cover their nakedness, but one cannot hide from the omnipresent. God found them, and with a heavy heart, he pronounced their punishment. Adam and Eve were banished from the Garden of Eden, the paradise they had called home. No longer could they walk with God in the cool of the day, or enjoy the bounty of the garden. They were sent out into the harsh world to toil and labor for their sustenance. But the consequences of their actions didn't stop there. With their disobedience, they had ushered in death. Before that fateful day, there was no death. Life was eternal, unending. But now, every living being would experience death. The cycle of life and death had begun, a stark reminder of the cost of their disobedience. And so, from that day forward, every human born into this world would bear the mark of that original sin. Every person would struggle with the temptation to sin, to choose their own desires over God's commands. Every person would experience suffering and death, a direct result of that first act of disobedience. The world was forever changed. The harmony and perfection that once was now marred by sin and suffering. Gone was the innocence of humanity, replaced by a constant struggle against the temptation to sin. From a state of perfection, man fell into a state of sin and suffering. From that day forward, humanity's story has been one of striving to overcome the consequences of that initial fall, and thus began the journey of redemption, a story for another time. But what exactly is sin, and why does it matter? To understand this, let's dive into the concept of sin from a biblical perspective. Sin, in the most basic sense, is a violation of God's laws. It's the act of straying from the path that God has laid out for us, of choosing our own way over His. This can take many forms, such as lying, stealing, or harboring hatred in our hearts. But sin isn't just about our actions. It's also about our thoughts and attitudes. If we harbor ill will, envy, or pride in our hearts, that too is considered sin. Now, you might be wondering, why does this matter? Why is sin such a big deal? Well, according to Christian theology, sin is significant because it separates us from God. God is holy and pure, and sin is the exact opposite of that. It's a stain, a blemish that keeps us from fully experiencing God's love and grace. Furthermore, sin has a ripple effect. It doesn't just affect us individually, it impacts our relationships with others as well. When we lie, steal, or act out of anger, we hurt those around us. We create division and strife, causing pain and suffering that goes beyond ourselves. But here's the thing about sin. It's not a one-and-done deal. It's not as if we sin once and that's it. No, sin is a cycle. We sin, we feel guilty, we ask for forgiveness, and then we sin again. It's a constant battle, a tug of war between our desire to do what's right and our inclination to do what's wrong. That's why the concept of redemption, which we'll discuss in the next scene, is so crucial. It's about breaking this cycle of sin and offering us a way to reconcile with God and with each other. Sin, as we see, has far-reaching implications, shaping the human experience as we know it. It's a challenging concept, one that calls us to reflect on our actions and attitudes and to strive for a life of love, grace, and truth. Yet, even in the face of sin, there is hope. In the grand tapestry of human history, the thread of redemption weaves its way through, bringing a sense of purpose and hope amidst the complexities of life. Redemption, in its core essence, is about restoration. It's about reclaiming what was lost, repairing what was broken, and renewing what was tarnished. This theme of redemption is not a mere footnote in the narrative of humanity, but rather, it's the very heart of it. And at the center of this redemption story, we find Jesus Christ. He is often referred to as the Redeemer, the one who came to rescue humanity from the consequences of that first fall in the Garden of Eden. Now, the story of Jesus Christ, his life, his teachings, his death, and his resurrection, is a profound narrative that cannot be fully encapsulated in a brief discussion. Its depth and breadth span across time and space, touching every corner of human existence. It's a story of love so great, sacrifice so profound, and grace so abundant that it has the power to transform lives, heal hearts, and restore hope. Through Jesus Christ, redemption becomes not just a concept, but a lived reality. It's about the restoration of a relationship, the healing of a broken world, and the promise of a future where pain and sorrow are no more. It's about the reconciliation of humanity with its Creator and the possibility of a life lived in harmony with God's original design. Through Jesus Christ, the narrative of humanity finds its climax and its resolution. The fall of man is not the end, but rather it sets the stage for the great redemption story. It's a story that echoes throughout history, reverberating with the promise of hope and salvation. In the midst of despair, the story of redemption gives us hope, and that's a story for another time. For now, we have traced the journey of mankind from creation to the fall, understanding the profound impact of these events on our lives today.